Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This week's video is a makeover on this little oak tea trolley that I found in my local charity shop, and I'm going to be using silk mineral paint. So before I do anything, also excuse this by the way, I've just been to the gym, that's right. Who does she think she is? The first thing I'm going to do is take the casters off the bottom of this because I've got some nice new ones on the way. I'm going for a bit more of a kind of modern vibe with this. So although I do actually really like these casters, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with them. They still work. They're just a little bit rusty and grubby. So I am going to keep them. I'll just put them in my stash box of things to keep. Also, some of my tools have gone walkabout, so I'm making do with a flathead screwdriver and some pliers. Let's see if it comes off. So that wasn't too bad. I'll show you a close-up of how to remove them because I've done a few of these and they usually come off fine. So these teeth that run all the way around are the bit that sits inside the wood. So it goes inside here and that metal piece goes inside the middle of the leg. That's what you need to pull out. Obviously if you try and unscrew it with the wheel, it's not going to do anything. The wheels are designed to move, so you need to pull it from that section and either twist it out like I did or you can just pull it. While this is flipped over upside down, I'm going to start cleaning it because there's loads of cobwebs and grime under here. Never ever forget to clean the underneath of your furniture. As always, I'm using Dixie Belle's White Lightning Cleaner, which is a heavy duty deglossing and degreasing cleaner. Look at the state of that. The other thing I'm going to do is take the doors off. Obviously it's got these decorative hinges on. There's no way I'm painting over them because it's just not that style of furniture. And also I'm not going to paint around them either. You'll get a much better finish if you go in for a one colour kind of clean look. If you take doors and hinges and hardware off, sorry to break it to you, but you will get a better finish. Sometimes I will absolutely paint over the handles. Last week's video was a completely different style of furniture where I did in fact intentionally paint over handles and stuff, and absolutely looks spot on the right piece. It's just it won't on this one in my opinion. Also flathead screws, lovely. This is a fantastic little screwdriver. I actually got this when I used to work at Halfords, and it's got interchangeable heads so you can just put whatever one fits in there. Great little screwdriver. Another tip, if you are working on multiple pieces or even if you're just working on one piece, the amount of times I have lost a very important screw or hinge or handle and you can't replace it because these things are vintage and you know you kind of need it to fit in with the rest of them. So get a bag, get a pot, get a zippy bag, get a plastic bag, whatever works for you, and chuck all your handles, hinges, hardware, screws in there and keep it safe. So now with the doors off and the hinges and everything removed, I'm able to get in there better. I'm going to be able to sand this bit better and get a cleaner finish when I paint. I also plan to paint the inside of here. It's a bit dull and drab, so it's going to make that easier as well, and I'm going to give it a good clean inside because like I say, I do plan to paint that. And some people ask why I bother cleaning before I sand. And way back, however many years ago it was when I first started painting furniture, I attended some in-person workshops with somebody that was local that stocked paint. And she told me that the reason you should always clean before you sand is because if there's anything waxy or oily, or anything like a silicone based polish that is on the surface of your furniture and you sand it, you can drive that into the wood grain and then that can create problems with paint sticking to your surface. So I always clean first and then sand. I know what people that do it the other way around. The most important thing is making sure you clean at some point. Whether you sand and then clean, clean and then sand. I'm going to have to wipe this down anyway after I've sanded, because obviously I don't want any dust on the surface. So would it make more sense to clean then? I don't know. It's just always the way that I've done it, and it's never failed. This way of prepping furniture has never failed for me. So if you've got a way that works for you, then stick with that. And this is just the way that I was taught, so this is the way that I always do it. So I've mentioned this before about prep work, but this cleaner that I'm using, Dixie Belle's White Lightning, is a rinseable cleaner. So once you've scrubbed everywhere, you then need to rinse it off to make sure there's no cleaning product left on the surface. I use microfiber cloths. I'm just going to go and dunk this in nice warm water, give it a good rub over, clean the cloth off again, then give it another wipe down and leave it to dry. So moving on to the next part, which is priming or sanding, or both, or either. So silk mineral paint is a little bit different to chalk mineral paint. I must admit I do use chalk mineral paint the most. It lends itself better to my style of painting, which is, you know, decorative effects. But for this one, we're going plain. So silk is my preferred paint to use. You do need to sand your piece to give silk a key. It needs something to grip onto. It's just a little bit more particular about the surface that it sits on rather than a chalky style paint. So chalk paints tend to have quite good adhesion on most surfaces unless it's very shiny and slippery. Silk mineral paint, even though this has been cleaned and it's kind of, the cleaner has deglossed it considerably compared to what it was, you do still need to scuff sand that surface. All-in-one paints, they're all the same, they just need a little bit more help sticking to the surface. If you don't want to sand, Dixie Belle do a primer. So this is an adhesion primer and a stain blocking primer in one. So this would be particularly good in instances like this. If you didn't want to sand this piece of furniture, it is solid wood, you do need to create a key for your paint, but you don't want to sand. This would be a very good solution because it's going to stop any stains leaching through from the tannins in the finish, in the wood, and it's also going to provide adhesion for silk to grip onto. So Bond Emboss is spectacular as a primer. You'll hear me using it and talking about it an awful lot because I do use it an awful lot. If you do choose to sand, you don't want to use Bond Emboss, you just want to sand your piece and move straight on. You don't have to use an electric sander, you can just use sanding sponges or a sandpaper. The reason I like sanding sponges is because they are literally a sponge, so you're not putting too much pressure on the surface and gouging any damage in the surface of the wood. So these are equivalent to a 220 grit, and that is all you should need for the majority of surfaces to scuff sand, unless your piece is very shiny and has like a very glossy kind of lacquer on it or finish. So all you need to do is literally rub away at the finish. So can you see how that has got like a dusty kind of white dust on it? It's taken the finish off a little bit, but you don't need to sand this right back. You don't have to sand pieces all the way back to bare wood in order for silk to grip. That is all you need to do. So you're just looking to scuff the surface up and create that kind of white haze on there. That's just scuffing the original finish up. That's all you need to do. You don't need to go any further than this. Now I am obviously going to use my electric sander because that's what I have, and it would be stupid of me to hand sand all of this when I've got an electric sander. And the other thing is the top of this piece, if you remember, does have some damage on it, so the varnish is flaking off. I'm probably going to have to sand that part back just to get a nice smooth finish. I don't want any kind of flaky varnish underneath my paint, but essentially that's all scuff sanding is. That's all you need to do. You don't need to go overboard, you don't need to go crazy, you don't need to sand the original finish right back. That is absolutely fine for silk mineral paint. So the top, as you can see, had the most amount of wear and tear on it with the flaky varnish, so I did just take that off with my electric sander. And every time I show my sander in a video, I get asked loads of questions about it. So I've made a little video that goes into a little bit more detail about the sander, about the dust extractor and everything like that, which I'll link top right now if you did want any more information. For the rest of the piece, it was absolutely fine. So all I did is just scuff sanded that up with the electric sander. I'm going to prime the inside of this piece only with Bond Emboss. Now the reason for that is because I think the inside is going to be more likely to bleed through than the outside. Dixie Belle's Silk Mineral Paint does have a stain blocking primer built into it, so it should be absolutely fine, but I also did not want to sand on the inside of that piece, couldn't be bothered, so I'm going to use Bond Emboss instead. I'm not going to use Bond Emboss on the outside because, like I say, this paint has a built-in stain blocking primer, so I'm confident that this paint is going to block any stains that potentially might leak through. I'm just going to go straight ahead with painting this one. This is the colour that I'm going to use. It goes on ever so slightly patchy for the first coat, which is to be expected because this is quite a dual tone green, so it doesn't have any white or grey pigment in it. It has a clear base, which gives it that kind of really deep, vibrant colour. So I'm going to anticipate that this is going to need 3 coats, which usually Dixie Belle Paints take 2. There are a few exceptions to that, and they tend to be the super vibrant shades like this one. You know what they say, pink and green should always be seen. I don't think they do say that, that's just what I say. So for that reason, I'm going to be painting the inside of this cupboard in this nice pink colour. This is also a silk mineral paint shade because I do not want to be top coating the inside of that piece, no thank you. This is called Conch. It's a nice dusky pink shade and I think it's going to contrast really nicely against the green. Don't forget, all of the products that I'm using in the video today will be linked in the description below here. They are affiliate links, which means if you click on them and make a purchase, I earn a small commission, but it won't cost you a penny more, and it's just one of the ways that helps earn me money to create free content like this video. If you are using Bond Emboss to prime with, just make sure you've left the primer to dry for 24 hours before you start applying paint. And that's really important because it needs the sufficient dry time to do its job. This is only going to take 2 coats on the inside of this piece with this pink. The coverage is really good in this colour, so I'm just going to do a quick coat and then I'm going to go straight back to the exterior of the piece. And as you can see, the second coat is where you're going to get that super kind of saturated green colour coming through. The first coat's always going to be a bit sketchy. Your second coat is where you're going to really notice the coverage, and like I mentioned, I did do a 3rd coat on this colour just to make sure that I got everywhere and it was super punchy and vibrant. As I mentioned at the start, I'm going to put some new casters on here. These are gold to give it a little bit more of a modern look. And I also spray painted the hinges to match, but the gold wasn't quite the right tone. So I'm going to go over the spray painted hinges with a little bit of gold gilding wax because it's a much better match to the casters. And I'm just going to go straight over with an artist brush. And also that's going to help me cover the screw heads as well, which I didn't spray paint. So the screw heads were sticking out like a sore thumb because they were black. So this is just going to tie it all together. And sorry about the background noise, I've got windows open, we're going through a heat wave in the UK. So you can see the difference there between the 2 different golds of one was spray painted and one had the gilding wax. It just makes it match a little bit better with the casters. As always, there's a few close-ups of the finished look. You can see the pink interior there with a little bit of tequila. And here is the finished project. Thank you very much for watching the video. As always, I've just hit 20,000 subscribers here on my YouTube channel. So if you are one of those 20,000 people that do subscribe, thank you very much. If you don't already subscribe, I'd very much appreciate you doing so. And I will catch you next time. Bye.